It's time for our pit stop. Here, we take a brief rest. It's a time to refuel, recharge, and explore shorter topics that are meaningful and helpful to us RVers. Welcome to RV Out West. I'm your host, Brooks. As RVers, we are a motley crew of people who love to be outside. Each camping trip has the potential to create a unique and different experience. As we heard from Peter and Erica in episode 63, with their advice of allowing people to crash and join your campfire, it keeps you open to meeting new people. There is power of being outside, and it can be humbling and make us vulnerable, but it can also empower each of us. This pit stop is not about recipes, but rather I want to share about some memorable food experiences I have had outside. Some of these are camping and RVing, and others are not. There is also power in food. I find joy in cooking, in food prep, in the gathering of ingredients and the sharing of meals. Thanksgiving is my absolute favorite holiday for this single reason alone. The connections that we all make in breaking bread with family and friends is a bond, and in so many ways, it's a simple act of loving on people. While I am a huge fan of the family dining table, as RVers, our table can be in our laps, in our not quite perfect camp chairs as we gather around each other. I want to share with you some of my top 5 best outdoor meals I've had in hopes that this also triggers wonderful memories for you and those you enjoy spending time with in the great outdoors. Number 5, my first Dutch oven dump cake dessert was to celebrate my brother's birthday in camp. This dessert was a success as I was able to make something that was edible, and I'm learning that Dutch ovens are rather forgiving. I think a lot of my family might have been skeptical, and many chose not to partake, but it was a good first cake if I do say so myself. If you're interested in learning more about Dutch oven cooking, go give a listen to episode 53 as I chat with the Northwest Dutch Oven Society and we dive right into Dutch oven cooking. Number 4, turning 40 is a big deal. Typically, people go on huge trips to celebrate these types of milestones. Not me. My wife and I love to travel, right? It's why we got our RV. But at this particular juncture in our lives, we had already done a fair amount of travel in our 20s and 30s. And for my 40th, we were pregnant with our second child, our daughter. So instead, I got a whole pig from a local butcher, a keg of beer, and we did a pig roast. This was an amazing meal, and at that time in my life, it was a great way to mark that milestone. Number 3, tailgate cup of noodles on a cold, snowy night in the parking lot of our local ski area. As you know by now, I snowboard, and I've been taking my kids skiing since my daughter was 4 and my son was 6. We go just about every weekend all winter long. It's our thing. It's something we do together, and after a day on the slopes, we get back to my pickup, I fire up the jet boil, and make a cup of noodles for everyone. The warmth of the noodles, the fresh MSGs, and the little pieces of dried veggies, of carrots and corn and peas, just make for a delicious dinner. Perhaps, though, it's the conversations around the tailgate about the day's adventures, the wipeouts, the wins that make that soup just so special. Number 2, my wife and I have done a lot of cross-country road trips, car camping trips, and spent a fair time tent camping. We've made fajita pockets out of tinfoil and cooked over an open fire. This was a common go-to camp meal for us back then, and now that I'm talking about it, I'm not sure why we haven't done it more recently. Anyway, we've cooked over the fire with this recipe on the Pacific beaches of Costa Rica and in Joshua Tree National Park. There is something just so delicious about soft yet still a little crunchy bell peppers with translucent onions with hunks of chicken rolled into a tortilla being eaten under the stars. Number 1, this meal was this past weekend. In full transparency, I wasn't camping in my RV or even in a tent. I was staying at a VRBO just outside of Ojai, California. This hamlet of a town is nestled on the edge of the Los Padres National Forest, just above the beach town of Ventura. My friend Texas Tom, who now lives in Alaska, flew down and joined up with me as we made the journey to Ojai. We went to visit our good friend Forrest. Forrest is a larger-than-life character with an abundance of laughable life stories that somehow all manage to carry a little bit of a lesson. Perhaps it's learning from his dumbassery, if I can say that, or it's because of the way he loves to also laugh at himself. Right now, though, Forrest is in the throes of coming to grips with stage 4 colon cancer. There is no cure. There is only time. So, we made the best of it. We cooked, we laughed, we shed a few tears as well, but let me tell you about this meal. We made a tri-tip roast over one of those super inexpensive, almost disposable hibachi grills. What made this hibachi so special is that it was an artisanal, handcrafted in Miners Oaks, California, by 2 craftsmen who can read picture-based directions. This grill was a beauty. We smoked fresh rosemary on top of the charcoal, roasted carrots, and made one of the finest outdoor meals I have ever eaten. This meal, this time with friends, was so memorable and so amazing. Forrest, I hope you're listening and know that I love you, brother. Food connects us all. It's what nourishes us in life, and gathering ingredients is an adventure. And if you take the time to do that, the meal will always be worth your time. I encourage you all to make a memorable meal in the great outdoors. Enjoy why you're doing it, whom you're doing it with, because life is precious. So enjoy every moment with your friends and family. Thank you so much for listening. I deeply appreciate it. I'm asking you to help the show grow. Please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and be sure to share with a fellow RVer about this show. Bonus if you leave RV Out West a rating and a review. Thanks so much for listening to RV Out West. Join us again in 2 weeks with our next episode. Please like and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or wherever you choose to get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And I sure would appreciate if you left a rating or a review of the show. Special thanks to Scott Holmes Music for providing the intro song, We Are One. RV Out West can be found on Instagram and Facebook, where you can interact with us and follow along on our RV adventures around the Pacific Northwest. So get out there, explore, and go see what's beyond the horizon.